Greetings, one and all. Welcome to Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. I'm Dan Vesperis, and today I'll be joined in about 8 seconds by the great Adam King. You may know him as Kingy. You might also just know him as Adam. That's probably what a lot of people call him in his life. What's the old expression? Just don't call him late for dinner. And we're going to be talking about Tyrese Haliburton. That is a crappy way to have to start a show. We're also going to get into a little bit more on the Kevin Durant trade that went down over the weekend that I didn't see for many hours. This is the magic of Little League Baseball. But hi, Adam. Let's just start with hello. Hello.
Morning, sir. I'm never late for dinner. So
never late.
Never.
That's the expression, right? Nobody says that crap, but
no. I'm late for other things. Never dinner.
Never. Well done. Well, you're a tall fellow. You needed.
I need my sustenance.
Yeah, you gotta power the locomotive. You want to start with Kevin Durant or Tyrese Haliburton? One of those stories is more sad than the other. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, it is. Let's start with Haliburton. It's a little more recent, and I think we got official confirmation overnight that it was. Well, we already knew what it was, but it is a torn Achilles for him. So yeah, very sad news.
How absolutely awful. And I'd love to say preventable, but like guys are always going to play through stuff in the playoffs. So this is how this goes. But I don't know. And I know this isn't a fantasy necessarily point, but to everybody out there that's like, oh, players are so weak and they never play through anything. Guys, this is what happens when a player plays through one thing is it puts more body strain on other stuff, and then hopefully horrible things don't happen, but in this case they did. And so that gentleman that YouTubers are seeing on your screen, and I'll remind you all to please hit that subscribe button while we're floating along here on today's show, and also like the video. Haliburton, who had truly elevated himself in fantasy circles and was the greatest buy low in the history of mankind this past season, is now done for, we assume, about a calendar year. That's another first rounder off the board, along with Jayson Tatum. If you want to call Kyrie Irving and Damian Lillard second rounders, those guys are off the board. The top of fantasy drafts is about as kneecapped as I can ever remember. And I know that isn't the point of today's show, but Adam, can you remember ever a time when 4 of the likely top 18 picks were basically out for the season?
No, I mean, I haven't been playing my whole life, but yeah, certainly in the last 10 years, I can't remember a situation like this. And as you said, I mean, straight away, and I'm assuming other people thought the same, my mind went straight to, was the calf injury a warning that this was coming? I feel like when Kevin Durant did his Achilles. I feel like he had a calf injury as well leading into it. Damian Lillard, of course, had the blood clots in his calf. Again, could not be related at all. I'm certainly not a medical professional, but I don't know. It's a bit of a coincidence. And yeah, this is what happens when you play through certain injuries. I will say, looking at Tyrese Haliburton's birth year there certainly makes me feel like an old man.
Yeah, 2000.
2000.
There's no nines left, my good man.
No. Wasn't that was only 5 years ago, wasn't it? 2000.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yep. Time. Okay. That's how time warps work. You get through college and then time ceases to exist. So that's great. But obviously this sucks because this takes another first rounder off the board.
Yeah.
And Haliburton's one of my favorites because everybody knows I'm a punt points guy, and he's like your absolute king of that. High efficiency, mega assists, almost 0 turnovers with them. And so you're taking one of my favorite fantasy players off the board. But let's try instead to forget for a moment, because the obvious, like the fallout on the fantasy top of the board there is very straightforward. It's just that everybody moves up another slot sort of artificially, but they do. And instead, I'm going to throw the Basketball Monster Pacers team page up. This, I think, this does not include playoffs anymore now that the playoffs are over. And everybody can kind of see this is who did stuff for the Pacers last year. So, King, I mean, doesn't everybody's eyes immediately, shouldn't they all go to one of either two players or potentially both in McConnell and Nembhard? Are those the two guys that jump out to you as well?
At the moment, they are. Yeah, I think the Pacers. It'll be interesting to see what they do here. Do they just sort of hold steady for 12 months and sort of not write it off, but view it as just an opportunity for some other players to step up and do a bit more with a view to then running it back in the next season? Or do they sort of try and build on this momentum and go, okay, well, we need to get a piece in here to fill in for 12 months, which would obviously impact players. But yeah, look, my mind would love to go to TJ McConnell. I just don't think they're going to give him that. We've seen it before when Haliburton is out, that they don't just run McConnell for 30 minutes. We'd love them to do that, but I think it'll be Nembhard. I think it'll be Neesmith doing a bit more. Siakam probably gets a bump because he's going to have to do more. We've seen a decent sample size of what they look like if you just remove Haliburton from the scenario. We saw it last season when he had his groin or a hamstring. It was one of those two. And then this year, he missed a couple of games. So we sort of know if they don't make any changes, we know what to expect. But that, to me, is the question of whether they try and add a piece to push again next season, or do they sort of take the foot off the gas a little bit and just see what happens?
Are you at all the thing, as you were talking about that, one thought popped into my head, which is like, do they do the San Antonio Spurs David Robinson bit and throw a year, basically tank one season, try to get a top 5 pick and add it to the mix for a healthier team the following year? I hate to say that is actually probably the best long-term play for them, but I think that's the best long-term play for them, is just throw a season.
Yeah, look, I think potentially yes. I mean, they're pretty young, so they don't really have anyone sitting there that next year is going to be crucial for their career trajectory and all that sort of thing. Like Turner, I mean, Turner's not young, but he's not old. McConnell is, I guess, one that is a little bit older, but they will get Isaiah Jackson back as well. So he will be back from his torn Achilles pretty early in the season, I would think. They will have, what's the old mate there? Wiseman. Whether he actually plays, I don't know whether he'll play for the Pacers, but they're going to have a couple of guys coming back. So potentially, yes. Look, they might look at doing that. Or the other option is, do they try and get like a Chris Paul, probably not Chris Paul, but get a veteran sort of proven point guard for 12 months or 2 years on perhaps a cheap deal to try and almost just plug that gap and see if they can get back into the playoffs, and then you never know. So, yeah, I think that question needs to be answered before we sort of determine, are we just going after Nembhard as a top 100 player, or is McConnell a late round flyer? Does Siakam bump up into the top 30 kind of thing?
BetOnline continues to be the number one source for all your sports betting action. With baseball in full swing and football season around the corner and basketball now over, congrats to the Thunder, by the way, BetOnline has more ways to stay in on that action with the latest odds, news, scores, and even live in-game full max degenerate style betting. That's what you got to do if you want to be part of the degenerate old man squad. MLB, UFC, tennis, NFL futures, BetOnline remains your choice for sports wagering information. And in between games or before them, perhaps maybe you'd like to wake up, have a little cup of coffee or some orange juice, play a little casino games. You got a live casino, you got poker, you got blackjack, you got everything you could need there if you're really feeling. If you need flashing lights in your face right when you're getting going in the morning, all of these options and then some. Plus, over at BetOnline now, you can take advantage of their industry-leading VIP program with level-up bonuses, weekly cash boosts, and so much more. BetOnline, the game starts here. I went from, Adam, and I want to continue here on the Haliburton pathway, and I might switch back and forth every 2 days for all I know, but off a finals run, I usually tend to lean in a little bit of a fade direction on a team just because of the mileage that gets put on their legs. And this was a 7-game finals. I mean, these playoffs literally went as far as they could possibly go, ending on June 22nd. The regular season ended more than 2 months ago. Like, we're talking 10 weeks of playoff basketball. That's a ton. And so the recovery time sucks for these guys. So that's why I'm worried. Then I started to think, all right, well, Haliburton goes down. Like, is it worth it to get in on a Pascal Siakam and say, all right, well, he's going to do a little bit more? What everybody's seeing, by the way, on their screen is I just pulled up the last 25 games of the year. So that's more of a small, not small, but kind of medium sample size. I'm genuinely concerned at this point. Almost all these guys put a ton of extra miles on their legs, specifically the starters. So in addition to Haliburton, Miles Turner, Aaron Nesmith, Pascal Siakam, maybe Nembhard, although he's still very, very young, so that probably doesn't quite correspond. But I think right now, at least, if someone was like, Dan, with no more information on what's going on, what do you do with these guys? And now I'm kind of leaning towards, I don't think I really want to take the plunge on a team that could either A, throw the season, B, just be so beat up from the deep playoff run that the season ends up kind of getting thrown whether they want it to or not. So maybe Nembhard, maybe McConnell, because TJ doesn't play that many minutes. Maybe that's the answer there. Or someone like Aaron Nesmith, who's more about just defensive stats and hustle and percentages. And so if that doesn't pan out, it doesn't hurt you as much. But the concept of spending a higher capital draft pick, so Siakam and Turner are probably the two that fall under that heading, on Indiana next year, right now, I'm leaning towards no. So just, and I hate the expression gun to your head because it's too morbid, but let's just take whatever info we have right this second, Kingy. By the way, you can find Adam on Twitter or on social in general at AdamKing91 and stuff it. I'm not telling you to do so. I'm telling you to listen to Adam's show called Stuff It. If you had to make that call right this second, Kingy, do you lean towards taking the shot that those guys get a big enough bump to make it worth it? Or is it a little bit too nerve-wracking for you? Me and my irritable bowel and my fragile constitution, I'm leaning towards dodging.
Yeah, it's one I'll probably flip-flop on a bit as well. I think as of right now, the decision on Siakam would probably be taken out of my hands because I think someone in most leagues will go, he could be a top 25 player. I'm going to draft him back into the second round or early third.
Yeah.
And that decision is not mine anymore. Yeah, look, I'm probably in the same boat as you. I'd be a little bit cautious. But then I could see someone like an Obi Toppin potentially coming in as a late round flyer. If they simply just move everyone up and start Nembhard at the point guard and sort of play Nesmith as a bit of a hybrid shooting guard, Siakam can be a 3-4 sort of guy, and then does Toppin just step straight in as the 4, maybe plays 27 minutes a game. Maybe he's a flyer. TJ, he's obviously the one, he doesn't play a lot of minutes. Maybe they just up him to 24 minutes a night, which we know he will get you 6 assists, 1.5 steals. He's efficient. So at the moment, I don't think I'd be reaching to grab a Turner or a Siakam, but it could just shuffle the bottom end of the board a little bit, where McConnell, Toppin, what role does Isaiah Jackson have? So there'll be some question marks there, I think, around their fringe guys.
All right, let's change gears now, and we're going to pivot over into the Kevin Durant universe. And folks already kind of know where I stand on this. I did my own personal breakdown yesterday, but I really want to get your thoughts on this move, both fantasy and reality, and everybody watching there. You guys are all fantasy and nuts, so we'll start on that side of things. Kevin Durant to Houston. I am not going to lead the witness in any way, but what's your initial feeling on how this impacts his fantasy numbers and any players around him potentially?
Look, I think he is who he is at this point. So I don't think a lot changes for Kevin Durant. I think he'll still be really good. I wouldn't sort of change my outlook on him too much. Those around him in Houston, potentially. If not, simply you've taken 2 players out and put 1 player in. So there's got to be some minutes there because Kevin Durant is not coming in and playing 70 minutes a game.
Oh, but come on.
Hopefully.
Please, come on. At least try.
Try.
Lack of effort.
So yeah, what does this open up? Look, I think Amen Thompson is someone we've been talking about on and off for the last 12 months, really. But
Yeah.
For me, this really solidifies him as a starter. I think they've seen this as, okay, we can get rid of Dylan Brooks. And Amen Thompson is our starter, 35 minutes a night. So I think he's sort of been compared to Jalen Williams a little bit in that he will be that top 30 range player. Again, in a punt points build, which you like, he will have even more value. So I think this helps Amen Thompson. I think there was did I see something this morning that Fred VanVleet, they're going to decline the option and look at signing him to a long-term deal? So that would sort of indicate that he is the guy they see as leading this team alongside Durant. So I think VanVleet probably stays the same. The question I'm sure we will get is, what does this do for Tyrese? Because he is a bit of a fantasy darling, so to speak. I thought he was exposed a bit in the playoffs. He had some interesting moments where Ime Udoka, I think, was visibly frustrated at the decision-making by Tyrese. That's not to say they won't put him into a larger role, but I'm just pumping the brakes a little bit on him. But I do think it helps in terms of his floor. I think he'll play a bit more. He'll have to. Maybe Reed Shepherd gets into the rotation a little bit more. We didn't really see him at all last year, so I'm hoping that he does, because I think he can still be a pretty good contributor for them. As I look down their rotation here, Jabari Smith, does he start? Probably. I think.
Do we care even if he does?
Not really. I think he's like top 100. 9th round target, 8th round target. I'd take Tari Eason over him. If we sort of got an indication that they were basically going to split minutes, I'd go Tari Eason over Jabari Smith. That's probably it. I mean, Cam Whitmore maybe steps into a larger role, but he was quite vocal about the fact that he wasn't being played and he thought he was better than what they believed he was. So I'm not sold on Cam Whitmore. I mean, offensively, he's very good, but defensively, he's just a turnstile. That's why they didn't play him. They couldn't play him at certain points because he's not good defensively. And so there will be an opportunity, if he is still with the Rockets, to step into a larger role. But I'm just not convinced that they believe he is a key piece for them. But maybe he comes out and proves us wrong, or proves me wrong.
Do you have an early, and you said third roundish, is that an area you'd feel comfortable taking Amen Thompson, or is that where you think he's going, or are those actually one and the same?
Let me pull up his numbers for last year, because much like you, I had him everywhere last year, but I got him in the 8th round. So
yeah, it's a little different.
It is very different. As this loads up, okay. So where was he? So last year, he was 55th. Last season I think I've got it set on 9-cat. I do, yeah. So 9-cat leagues, 55th in 32 minutes a game. So I think that goes up probably to 35-ish. Over the last 3 months, he was the 15th ranked player. So where do you settle there? He was really good. Look, I think, as I said, if you're punting points, absolutely, I would take him even second round, late second round maybe, because with Durant coming in, obviously they lost Jalen Green and Dylan Brooks. Kevin Durant is going to come in and soak up a lot of that scoring. Amen Thompson probably does a little bit more on the offensive end, and he is quite efficient. Look, again, this might be one that's almost taken out of my hands, because there will be people that will jump on the Amen train and take him with the 19th pick. I'd love to get him in the 3rd round. I think I'd be pretty comfortable getting him in the 3rd round if he's available. But I feel like if I'm picking late in the 3rd, he'll be gone by the time it gets back to me.
Yeah, and I hate that this is the thing now, but like 4 players that should have been going in front of him are gone.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
everybody is a third of a round sooner than we would have expected. Just like right at in your brain, you got to be like, oh, I'd love to get this guy around 30, but this year I'm going to have to get him at 26 because dudes are just cooked for a year. It's insane. Like, we're not talking about guys that are missing a few weeks to start the season and they're bumping a little bit down the board. We're talking about guys that are out for probably the whole year. Of the names that I listed, I think Kyrie Irving is the only one where people are like, yeah, he probably plays like at some point this regular season. Dame, Tatum, and Haliburton, I would not be surprised at all if not one of those guys played a regular season game next year. So, like, there's this weird, almost half round artificial bump that's happening on everybody. But I'm inclined to agree with you. I feel like third round is the sweet spot where if he underperforms and you get a fourth or a fifth, it doesn't hurt you that bad. If he overperforms, great. There still is that wiggle room. You know, if he fixes his free throw stroke or if he improves a little bit on offense just in general. And so you catch him at a little bit of a safe midpoint. But you're right. This year, more than any, someone's going to be like, well, I was going to take Damian at this spot, but he's not there. So screw it. Pick 21, a Men Thompson kind of thing. And so we're all going to be scratching and clawing. But, you know, Yahoo's pre-ranks and ADP info, that'll tell a better story than whatever we can tell. What about back over on the dumpster fire side that was the Phoenix Suns last year? Because they were already, and I hate to use the term logjam, they were already a logjam. And again, I'm trying not to lead the witness too much, so I'll stop myself. But you already mentioned Houston took out 2 starters, replaced it with 1. Phoenix takes out 1 starter, replaces it with 2. So based on what you've said so far, I'm guessing you're somewhat bearish on anybody that's not a household name over on Phoenix now.
Unless they're going to run out a starting lineup with 5 shooting guards, I think there's going to be
let's go, baby.
some question marks. Yeah, look, they're a funny looking squad, aren't they? Tons of depth in the backcourt and nothing in the front court. So, yeah, look, what does it do? I think Devin Booker, as you said, there's players are going to, well, for lack of a better term, they're going to benefit from these injuries to Haliburton and Tatum and Lillard. Booker might be one of those. With no Kevin Durant there, Booker, unless they're not finished moving, which is, for their sake, highly likely because they have Nick Richards as their starting center. I mean, come on. So
remember when people told us last year that Nick Richards was going to be good in Phoenix?
I do.
Yeah.
It didn't turn out too well for them.
Folks get a little carried away. I mean, sorry, go ahead. I was about to get cooking on Phoenix, but I do really want to stand back on this episode.
No, look, I think so. Booker, I think, is someone that people may reach a little bit to get because his points could go up, his assists could go up. We would assume that he will start at point guard. They sort of moved off of Tyus Jones late in the season anyway, and with even more guard depth now, I just don't see any way they can start him. So I think Booker will start and average, I mean, he could be close to 30 points a game, 8 assists, a lot of threes, good from the free throw line. He'll get you, I mean, I don't know what he gets in steals. He's probably not a great steals guy. 1.2. Yeah, okay, he was at 0.9 last year. So I think everything for him could bump up a little bit. So he might be someone that people grab on the turn. So sort of pick 12, 13, or maybe he drops to the mid-second round. So I think he gets a bump. Jalen Green, well, I mean, he's going to come in and play basically the same role. Does he get a little bit more freedom if Phoenix aren't competing? Do they just let him run out there? He's not someone I'm going to target personally, just because I think his fantasy game, he doesn't translate that well into fantasy unless you're simply seeking points late, which, of course, is something that people will do. Cam Thomas was a good example of that. People were reaching to get him because they need someone who can get 25 points. Yeah. Yeah, not a lot changes for him, but I do think, let me bring up their depth chart again.
It's a real who's who of a bunch of guys where no one is better than anybody else.
No. I mean, Beal, I suppose. Beal is Beal. Obviously, they can't trade Beal, so he will be there. They would love to. So he's probably, I don't know, you're probably looking at him in the middle of the draft, top 60 range, maybe top 70. Grayson Allen, I mean, where does he fit now? 2 years ago, he sort of had that breakout and then he faded last year. And then where does he fit in this year? Who is their power forward? I'm not sure. Is it Royce O'Neal?
It might be Dylan Brooks.
It might be Dylan Brooks. Dylan Brooks, I'm not targeting.
Yeah.
I know he's probably decent chance that he starts and plays a lot of minutes, but he started and played a lot of minutes for the last 4 years and did nothing. So we don't need to worry about him. So at the moment, yeah, look, I think Booker gets a nice bump up potentially. Beyond that, I'm hoping for Phoenix fans' sakes that they have moves to come, because if they're going to run out this lineup, they're not going to win a lot of games, I don't think.
Matt Smith, we're talking about you, bud. We're hoping. We're thinking good thoughts for you. We're thinking good thoughts, Smitty. Yeah, Grayson Allen, Tyus Jones, I think, is off the ledger now.
Yeah.
Royce O'Neal, Bowl. They had a 2-week bowl thing last year. They started Colin Gillespie down the stretch. They got Ryan Dunn, the young guy. There's 4 or 5 wings that are all going to be fighting for the same, like, 2 or 3 pieces of popcorn that just fell out of the bucket. Well,
I think what this does do is it makes their draft pick interesting. So they got the 10th pick, I think, in this trade. They get the 10th pick back. So it does make that pick interesting, because potentially they're picking their starting center or power forward now.
Yeah. Come on, center.
So who knows? They do have Iguodaro, who they seem to like. So he's sort of there. I don't know where he fits exactly, but yeah, I think Ryan Dunn, I mean, they started him for stretches last season as well. So where does he fit in? So a lot of question marks, but it does make their draft pick interesting to see if they're viewing whoever they take as a 30-minute a night starter, because obviously that would put whoever that is straight into the fantasy discussion.
Isn't it interesting how, and I'll throw my own opinion in here now that everybody's heard yours. Isn't it interesting how it seems like both Booker and Durant are probably going to get to do a little bit more in the aftermath of this, even though all these pieces are moving around on 2 teams that still are going to convince themselves, at least for Phoenix, that they want to compete. And then the Rockets, Rockets look really good in the aftermath of this trade. But isn't it interesting how both of them seem like they're likely to get a small bump? That's that. I just thought that was kind of interesting. Like, usually one guy goes to a place where it's not quite as good, but just not having the 2 alpha scorers together, like anywhere but here kind of thing, seems like it's a good deal. And also, do you think Kevin Durant's going to go back to getting drafted in the first round after this? Because he was going late second last year. And I know he's old, but like, if people think he takes an extra shot and a half per year in Houston, this could be a huge KD season. Because the only other guy on that team that took any shots besides Jalen Green last year was Alperen Şengün, and he was at 15. And KD's leaving Booker, who took 19. Beal was at 13. Like, there's a massive hole in Houston that he gets to fill.
Yeah, look, I think people might. I don't think. I mean, again, with all these injuries, maybe I wouldn't be taking him as sort of the 8th player in a draft or 9th. But I think if you're picking close to the turn, 11, 12, I don't know. I mean, I'd consider it. He was the 11th ranked player last season. Health is always going to be a little bit of a question mark because of his age. But look, I think playing on a team like Houston, who, look, I mean, they're going to compete. We're fairly certain of that. And so they will probably be in a position where they can manage him a little bit. So, yeah, look, maybe we do get 65, 66 games out of him, which is, honestly, that's pretty good from a first rounder nowadays. If you can get anywhere close to 70, you're probably winning. So, I'm not normally one to go after KD, but I think on this team and with their ability to probably manage him a bit and rest him and all sorts of things, I'd be okay sort of taking him, I think, on the turn with a younger piece. Maybe a Booker. Maybe you take Booker and KD with pick 12 and 13 or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, if you're sad that they're not teammates in real life anymore, you can make them teammates on your fantasy team. Last question for you before I let you get your day started officially. Although this episode is going to drop in the morning my time on a different day. It happens to be the morning your time right now. I know it's not interesting to people watching. Everybody just assumes it's the same time for us. Do you risk it with Bradley Beal in any format? I think I may be all out on him. Like the Suns are a shutdown risk. He's they'll attach all their assets to get off his contract kind of risk. Like, and if he goes somewhere where it's a bad team that's just taking on salary, then he won't play down the stretch. And with 55 shooting guards and small forwards on this roster, they don't have to play him. He was number 87, as folks can see on their screen, in 9-cat last year. And I just don't like, even with KD gone, I'm worried that they're just like, Beal, we don't like you anymore, man. Like, we don't really want you to do all that much more. And then with the games played risk, I don't feel like I could take him any earlier than about pick 85, but maybe I'm being too big of a dickhead about this. Would you go any earlier than that on Beal? Am I being too mean?
It would depend a little bit on my build. If for like in a situation like you will probably be where you're punting points, no need to do that at all. In just a roto league or a sort of if you're just going for a standard across the board build, I might go slightly higher than 85. I might go 70, top 70, so maybe a round or so higher.
Fair.
I mean, he was, like 87th last year, 32 minutes. This probably sort of comes down to how do they view Jalen Green? Is he their guy now and he's going to be their scorer alongside Booker? Or do they bring Jalen Green in as sort of a third head on the monster with Beal, Booker, and Green as their three scorers? So does Beal bump up closer to 20 points or does he just hover in this 17 to 18 range? Do his assists go up a little bit? Maybe. I guess there's an opportunity there with no KD if he's playing the two. But again, Jalen Green's not a three. So I really don't know what their starting lineup's going to look like. So punt points, no. If you're not punting points at the moment, it may be top 70. But in saying that, I feel like maybe that decision will be taken out of my hands as well because someone will want to take him at pick 56 or something like that, and you can have him.
Yeah. Pass. Thank you very much. Kingy, thank you, my good man, for carving out a window here first thing in your AM. Big news going down in the NBA while I was off watching 8-year-olds play baseball. That's fine, though. Anything to chew up days here while we wait on free agency, which is like a week and change away now. I think the moratorium period starts in like a week. So
yeah, excellent. I think the draft is 2 days away, 2 or 3 days away.
Yeah,
and then,
I don't care about that.
Yeah, and then free agency is about a week-ish.
Oh, thank goodness. And then people may or may not care about this. Adam King and I will meet face to face in like a week and a half for the first time ever. You're going to be in the States, which is it's a place right now.
It's a place. Yeah, it's sneaking up 2 weeks, pretty much 2 weeks till we fly out. So got to get all my visas and everything in order, which I think I'm good to go. So yeah, just sit on a plane for 18 hours and and then we'll be there.
Even if we give you a really nice trip to the U.S., I don't know that there's any place that's worth an 18-hour flight. That's just where I'm at with the whole thing.
I actually like planes.
I hate it.
The lack of sleep I don't like, but everything else I like. I like people bringing you food. I feel pretty special. And
but I hate being trapped in a tube. You're basically just in a meat tube.
You are
with a bunch of people that I probably wouldn't normally want to hang out with.
No.
Just breathing on me, coughing on me, and all that stuff. This is how I felt long before COVID made us all paranoid about other humans breathing on us. I just don't keep me away. If I can take a car wherever I'm going, I don't care if it takes longer. And I can stop when I need to stop. Yep. You know, I mentioned irritable bowel earlier in the podcast. If people can put the 2 and 2 together on that story, but I can do drive through whatever.
Yep.
And then stop a half an hour after.
Well, I may get to sample your driving, and let's see what that trip from.
I'm a pretty mellow driver. But I say that with the realization that everybody who grew up driving in Los Angeles is hyper aggressive automatically. I think I'm a pretty mellow Los Angeles driver, but I have no idea how that stacks me up against the rest of the universe. The only other places I've driven consistently are San Francisco, which is crazy. People are insane drivers there. Not aggressive, just like you never know what anybody's going to do. Detroit, which is the only place I've driven where I was like, yeah, these people are definitely more aggressive than LA. And then like small towns where minor league baseball is. And I look like a huge ass because I am going max power all the time. And people in small towns don't drive that fast. They're just like, oh, I got to go 4 miles. I'm sure I'll be there in 72 minutes. I'm like, I need to be there in 4. Anyway, not the point. Kingy and I get to hang out. You guys will see, I'm sure, a photograph of the moment. Thank you, good sir. Have a lovely, you're already at Tuesday, and everybody else watching is on Tuesday now as well. Have a lovely Tuesday.
I will. Off to physio now. Got to get this knee right for the trip. So, yeah, off to physio and then back home to do some work.
Are you traveling with a scooter for 18 hours?
I'm not. No. I'm fairly mobile now, so it should be good to escort you along the strip.
That's right. watch me play craps and
remove you from venues as required.
Yes. Yeah. I don't really drink though, so it's usually just once the wallet has run dry, then everything we're all good. The bad decisions, like you said, like this is the decision on Pascal Siakam's going to get made for you. The decision on when I'm done gambling gets made for me by
Well, you mentioned when you did the ad read about the Bet online casino. If people want to have their orange juice or coffee with the bright lights, you will actually be able to do that in real life. With coffee and orange juice and the bright lights of Vegas. So looking forward to that.
Ding, 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 ding. The chiming and the clinging and the. It's a really nice trip for a day and a half. Otherwise, you get very tired very fast. Kingy, I'll talk to you in a little bit. Everybody else, we're donezo. Thanks for watching, everyone. Like, rate, subscribe on your way out. This is Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. See you tomorrow, and I don't even know what I'm talking about yet because that's how the offseason goes. Later, everybody.